Hi, this is Dan Bloom with CreativeLivingTips.com, and I want to talk about Korean marriage. So if you're thinking of marrying a woman from Korea, or if you are married to a woman from Korea and you're noticing some things that are quite different than marrying a woman from your own country, first, talk about my experience and where my opinion is coming from. So I've never been married to a Korean woman. I've never been married, period. But I've lived in Korea for 5 years. I have Korean friends. I was a dating coach in Korea. I have friends who are married to Korean women. So this comes from my personal opinion that came from research and talking to my friends and seeing it and being in long-term relationships with women from Korea as well. So one thing I've noticed is that in the West, there's more the belief that marriage is for the individuals who are getting married, the husband and wife. They're marrying out of love. They are starting their own family that is shielded from other family members, and they're growing up children to become individuals who can think for themselves, do things for themselves. Now this, of course, is a very stereotypical view of Western marriage, but the values and the principles that come from a marriage like that are still there. The concept that the family is a nuclear family, it's a unit of its own, and husband and wife are married because they love each other. Now in Korea, even today, it's not really like that at all. In fact, it's almost the complete opposite. In Korea, Koreans marry because it's good for the family, because it's good for their community. There's more of a utilitarian approach to marriage with Koreans in general. And this might sound controversial, but this is what I found. And if you ask Koreans, they'll agree with it. So what does that mean for you? A woman from Korea, if she wants to marry you, or if you want to marry her, what are some things you have to be aware of? First thing is that you're not marrying just her, you're marrying her family. And this is a very Asian concept. So for example, if you think that you can, marry her and then you can start your own life and, if her and be by yourselves, that's not going to happen. Her parents are going to come visit regularly, unexpectedly. Chances are, they'll come visit unexpectedly. You will be expected to go visit her family, and decisions, what you want to do with your children, what you want to do with your wife going on vacation or something like that, you have to take into consideration what her family will think about that or say about that. Like if her family wants to come visit, you can't really socially say, hey, we're going to go on vacation, yada, 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 I'm sorry. There's going to be more of a dynamic where you are involved with her family. Something to expect and get used to. Another thing you have to understand is that Koreans, even today, they don't want to have their women or men marry foreigners. Intercultural dating is still very new and taboo. Only a certain percentage of women from Korea would want to marry a foreigner. So I want to go into that. What percentage of women would want to marry a foreigner? And I think there are 3 types of women who would want to marry a foreigner. One is a woman who happens to like foreign culture, happens to be okay, who happens to enjoy actually like the foreign concept of marriage, who has Western ideals. Now, before I go into any further, understand that she, of course, if a woman from Korea wants to marry you, she'll have to like you to an extent. Of course, they'll have to like you as well. That's I'm assuming that already. So, but there has to be more. Because if she only likes you, she'll probably date you, but she wouldn't marry you. Marriage is more, again, because marriage is more of a family, of a community decision rather than her own individual decision. So she has to really enjoy Western culture to the point to where she wants to value-wise to being Western or to being more into your culture. And she just so happens to look Korean. That's the first type of woman. Second type of woman would be someone who, to put it bluntly, Korean guys don't want to marry her. It's a reality, and I'll say it. A lot of women, either because they've reached a certain age or because of their personality or because of how they act or whatnot, Korean men wouldn't want to be with them. And so the only choice they really have to be accepted, to be wanted, is to be with a foreign man. So this isn't bad, but this is just, the reality of it. Okay. Third reason is that, well, quite frankly, maybe she just wants to get away from her culture or from her life. She wants to escape, and you're her way to escape. Now, it might not just be physically moving from like Korea to your country or whatnot. It might be psychological. Again, going back to the type of woman who's made that switch in her mind to being, who's not really Korean in terms of culture and identity and such. Or they're escaping, and this is what was happening 50 years ago because of poverty, because they were so poor, they left their culture, their country to marry an American GI or whatnot to escape the poverty. So the third reason isn't as common as it was just 30 years ago, because Korea is much more well off now, and Koreans, if they had the choice, ideally they'd want to marry each other. And this is not just racism per se. Koreans would rather marry other Koreans. And this is because of the bloodlines that the Korean families have. There's a record of their family tree. And when a Korean woman marries a foreigner, from what I heard, she is no longer part of that family tree. She is a quote-unquote dead branch to the family. So Koreans, they have that perspective of marrying, and that is why you might find a lot of resistance to marrying a Korean woman, or something also that your Korean fiance or a Korean woman you want to marry, she has to consider. She's making a leap from her family to you. When she's choosing you, she's doing more than just choosing an individual choice. She's breaking away from the convention, from the norms, from what's expected of her. And for a Korean, that's huge, because there's nothing really outside their social expectations in their lives in general, because of how Korean society works. So after saying all that, what can you do to help find a Korean woman to marry? You can go online. There are many Korean women online who are looking for marriage. There are websites like KoreanCupid.com, and actually below you'll find a link to my experience with KoreanCupid.com if you want to find out more. There are other websites like Korean Friend Finder, and I'm sure you can find other websites. You can also meet them offline. For that, it depends. If you live in Korea, there are plenty of groups and such you can join and meet Koreans that way. If you're not in Korea, you can meet Korean women either in local community groups, such as you can go to language schools, or you can go to community churches to find women who want to marry. So that's my take on Korean marriage. If you want to marry a woman from Korea, you can find out more on how to do it by going to my website, KoreanDatingTips.com. Thanks for listening.